Hey, how's it going? Today I'll be talking about a question that I won't give a definitive answer to, but hopefully I'll be able to present information that makes it easier for you to make that decision yourself. Is SBRing an AR lower specifically worth it? Signed into law on June 26, 1934, the National Firearms Act, abbreviated to NFA, is the reason why SBRs, short-barreled rifles, are more highly regulated than other firearms. It also regulates short-barreled shotguns, machine guns, suppressors, and destructive devices, though that last was added to the NFA in the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act of 1968. These items require an approved Form 4 for transfers and a Form 1 for manufacturing to own legally without catching a felony and 10 years in prison. Not only that, but you have to pay a $200 tax stamp to the Treasury Department. When the NFA was enacted, that was equivalent to about $4,400, and that price has not yet been changed. Anyway, back on track, you might be wondering why in Sam hell are short-barreled rifles highly regulated, but AR pistols, which are more concealable than SBRs due to the lack of a stock, just treated like regular handguns. That's because the NFA originally sought out to add all handguns to the NFA, and short-barreled rifles and shotguns were added to close a potential loophole. The problem is, the handgun part was removed, but not the fucking loophole closure. So because of that oversight, or more likely deliberate overlooking, we get to pay more and jump through hoops for guns that are less lethal than our long-barreled counterparts, and less concealable than their pistol counterparts. Can you tell I don't like the NFA? Before we go over the hoops you have to go through to get an SBR lower, I'll go ahead and disprove some FUD lore I've heard pretty frequently. Owning an NFA item does not mean you lose your Fourth Amendment rights. Yes, NFA items are on a registry, but police cannot enter and search your home without a warrant or probable cause supported by oath or affirmation. At least not legally for the time being. Yes, federal police a lot of the time do whatever the fuck they want without repercussions, but at least they aren't supposed to. You are still protected by the Fourth Amendment even if you don't own NFA items. I think this FUD lore came around because FFLs can have their business inspected at any time by the ATF to ensure compliance, but that's a business, not an individual. Alright, onto the hoops, and there's a couple. First, you have to pay the $200 tax stamp, which sucks, and then you need to wait for an approved Form 4 or Form 1 before you can get your hands on your SBR. If you're Form 1ing it, meaning you're manufacturing it yourself, you have to wait for an approval before you slap a stock on the lower with a short-barreled upper. I use Silencer Shop's Form 1 service with a single-shot trust, and it took 37 days for my Form 1 to get approved for an SBR lower. That's a pain in the ass, but nowhere near as bad as the 216 or 241 day waits I went through to get my suppressors. Those suppressors were Form 4'd in. Also, before you slap a stock on it, you have to get your lower engraved. There are specific requirements for the font size and engraving depth, and you need to engrave either your name as an individual or your trust name, manufacturing location, and caliber. If you intend to use the lower with multiple uppers and different calibers, you just need to select one of them and have that be what is legally engraved on it. You unfortunately can't just mark multi. I got my engraving done by Tar Heel State Firearms, and it worked out well despite some return shipping confusion that wasn't really a huge deal. So after your stamp is approved and your lower is engraved, the inconveniences are not over. You now need to lock the NFA item up at all times when you leave the house. You should be securing your firearms and valuables anyways, that's part of being a responsible gun owner, but you are now required by law to, and you can be the only person that has access to the safe. If you filed your Form 1 or 4 as a trust, then you can add other responsible persons, but if you filed as an individual, you need a separate safe that only you can access, and that's not cheap. Obligatory, I'm not a lawyer, but the way I understand it, if you're the only person with keys to your home, you can get away with keeping it unsecured since your house, legally at least, acts as a safe. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Again, I'm not a lawyer. This securing rule applies to all NFA items, but an SBR lower is quite a bit larger than a suppressor, and it's going to take more room up in the safe. I just separate the upper and lower and take the stock off the lower, and that makes it fit in a little safe really nicely. That's not all, folks, because there's also travel restrictions with SBRs. To cross state lines with your NFA item, legally, you need an approved ATF Form 5320.20, which can take several weeks to get approved. You need to list on the form where you plan on taking the lower and the time period you expect to as well. Thankfully, you don't have to be super specific. Some mad lads on Reddit got their forms approved by giving a time period of an entire year at a location that were the coordinates of an entire state. No guarantee this method will work, but that would most certainly make traveling with NFA items less of a headache. Not related to SBRs, but suppressors are the only NFA item that does not need an approved 5320.20 to be taken over state lines. No clue why that is, let me know in the comments. So that's all for federal headaches, now on to stateside headaches. In the following states, SBRs are either entirely illegal even with NFA registration, or more restricted than they already are. California, Hawaii, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, and Rhode Island. I won't be going over the specifics of each state, but do your research if you live in any of the ones listed. There's also the annoying bit where FUD range officers at public ranges might ask to see your paperwork when you bring out an SBR. You have no legal requirement to show anybody but an ATF agent that paperwork, so it's up to you if you want to tell the FUD to get bent and likely have to leave the range, or if you just want to show them and bite the bullet. And now for a question I know some of you are thinking of. Why the fuck not just use a brace? Well, the legal battle is still raging on in regards to pistol braces and will likely not conclude for a few more years, so at least right now, you could just use a brace and not have to worry about any of the BS that comes with owning an SBR, but keep in mind, that could change. Now on to why it might be worth it for you to SBR lower. For one, since the AR platform allows you to easily swap uppers and lowers, you can just SBR one lower and use it with many different uppers. I currently have a 10.3.556 upper, a 10.5.300 blackout upper, and a 4.5-inch 22 long rifle upper that all share the same SBR lower. There are many other uppers that are compatible with 5.56 lowers as well, but those are just the ones I own. You can also put a vertical foregrip on super short uppers without having to worry about the overall length like you do with AR pistols. And also, stocks will always be more comfortable and practical than a brace or a bare buffer tube. So, are those benefits worth all the red tape? For me, yes. I use my SBR lower with many uppers and have had no regrets, especially with the pistol brace legal battle going on. But for you? I don't know. That's for you to decide, man. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you have a full-length rifle or an SBR if you can't shoot for shit. Go get some range time in and have fun. Take care.
Where's that dot? There it is.